How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Ruffled Rowlet, and welcome back to a brand new video, guys. Okay, today we have a a long video, okay? We've got a long video, so sit back, relax, and grab yourself a beverage, because today we're going to be going through a lot of information. Basically, the Pokemon Company International had a huge interview with Masuda and Nabana, who are the director and the kind of 3D designer for Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. So Masuda, you all know Masuda. Nabana, we've seen him before in previous interviews, but they had a huge interview here. You can see it's a gigantic one. We're gonna go through everything, but the biggest point is what they point out here in an article on Nintendo Soup and also on Nintendo Life, and that is that Masuda says that the Pokemon Let's Go games is probably the last mainline Pokemon game that he is directing. And you can see the same thing here. Pokemon Let's Go might be the final time Junichi Masuda directs the main series, which this is a very interesting situation. I think the reason he gives for why he's gonna step down is a good reason. I think the reason for him stepping down and not being director for any mainline games in the future is a good reason. And I think it's good that he steps down. I have my reasons for it, and I'll explain it. For anybody who knows what Masuda has been saying about Pokemon, you know that it's probably better for him to step down and work on making the music for Pokemon, which he's great at. The Pokemon music has always been amazing, and he's usually the biggest part of that. He's a huge part of why the music is amazing, because he makes a lot of it. So him taking over just on that side, or just on that side of production, that would be awesome. And leaving the directing to somebody that's younger. So let's look at what he said right here in this article before we read the giant Pokemon post, because the giant Pokemon post is just humongous. We also have the Nintendo Life one. Like I said, it's going to be a long video, so sit back, relax, just grab yourself a drink or something, and we're going to get right into this. So let's start with the actual article here on Nintendo Soup first. Masuda, Pokemon Let's Go is probably the last mainline Pokemon game I'm directing. The Pokemon Company International has published a very lengthy interview with Gamefreak's Junichi Masuda and Kensaku Nabana from Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. One of the things Masuda talked about was directing Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. It's been 5 years since Masuda directed Pokemon X and Y for the Nintendo 3DS, so Masuda was asked why he decided to become a director again for Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. Masuda felt as he was heavily involved with the development of Pokemon Go, he would be the best person suited to direct Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. He had learned many interesting things as well, as this was the first time Game Freak worked on the Nintendo Switch. Finally, Masuda ended up saying Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee is the last mainline Pokemon RPG that he will ever direct, as he wants to pass the torch to the younger generation. And check the full interview down below. So let's see what the Nintendo Life says, because they probably have more more quotes here from what he says from the actual interview. So Junichi Masuda has been Game Freak's company's inception in 1989. In the beginning, he worked as a composer and programmer for the original Pokemon games, and eventually went on to direct and produce a series. In an interview recently posted on the official Pokemon website, Masuda said that Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee could be the last time that he directs a mainline game. It's important to have the younger generation at Game Freak take over the development of Pokemon as a series. I do believe this will probably be, in terms of the main Pokemon RPGs, the last time that I work as the director. Masuda went on to explain how his involvement in Let's Go was mostly because he worked on a concept document for Pokemon Go and wanted to create games that would be able to connect to the mobile application. I was the one who worked on the base game concept document for Pokemon Go, and even in that original concept, I had the idea of introducing new Pokemon through the mobile game. I wanted to realize that goal by creating games that would connect with Pokemon Go and feel somewhat similar to it without feeling like we were copying it. Given my involvement in Pokemon Go's development, I felt that it was probably the best person to direct these games. The chance to develop on the Switch was also an exciting prospect. It was also interesting to work with the Nintendo Switch. There's a lot of technology packed into the hardware that we were all trying to discover at Game Freak. For example, developing the Pokeball Plus and working with Bluetooth to facilitate the connection with Pokemon Go were both very interesting things that I had a chance to work on as director this time. How would you feel about Junichi Masuda calling it a day as director of the Pokemon series? Tell us in the comments. And I think people down here give their thoughts and whatnot. Now, I'm going to read the actual full interview here, but I'm also going to give first my thoughts on all this stuff, because this is a huge interview, guys. There's a lot of information right here to go through, like a lot of info. Look at this. This is gigantic. It's so much information. So let's read some of the comments. So, well, if the next Pokemon game mainline spinoff will be better from younger generation IDs, Nintendo could always find a replacement for seniors if they want to retire. Maybe now the 20 2019 game will have a chance to actually be good. Yikes. Probably for the best, considering how stagnant the series has become. For Pokemon to be the biggest media franchise in the world, the quality of its games have been hit or miss since the start of Generation 4. That shakeup worked for Zelda. It should work for Pokemon 2, a younger team paying respect to the games they grew up on while hopefully pushing the envelope of what a Pokemon game can be is an exciting prospect. I agree. This guy, the guy that ended up Gen 1, pandering and losing what made the series popular, Evolution. When Omori got the chance to direct both ORAS and then the Sun and Moon, it was a huge change after the lackluster X and Y. I tend to agree with Masuda that his magnum opus was Gen 5, because after that, wow. Well, here's the thing, right? People here are complaining, which I think is reasonable. I was not happy with Masuda's, general concept of what Pokemon should be. And this is where I'm going to put in my opinions before we get into the actual interview. So hear me out right. This is very important to understand this whole situation and why I'm okay with Masuda leaving. As you all know, we used to have this meme, Masuda Matata. We used to be excited for Masuda and what he's going to say. But Masuda seems to have gone down a path which doesn't align with what we want as, from our video games. And the path he went down was the mobile game route. Now, what I mean by this is not Pokemon Go. I'm not talking about Pokemon Go. I'm talking about him wanting to turn the whole Pokemon franchise into a more mobile game style thing, right? He wants to use the mobile game mentality for all of Pokemon. Now, I shouldn't have to explain why that's an issue. No matter if mobile games today are, able to be run better and whatnot, what doesn't matter. They're still mobile games, and they still are bad in general. And I want to be able to get my Pokemon games normally, like just on my, my Switch, my 3DS, whatever it may be. That's how I want my Pokemon games. I don't need it to be on my mobile phone. That's just leave that on the side. The same thing happened with Diablo. Anybody who follows Blizzard, right? If you played World of Warcraft, Overwatch, whatnot, Blizzard, the company who makes those games, they make Diablo. There was Diablo 3, Diablo 2, and Diablo 1, right? But now people have been waiting for Diablo 4 for ages, the next game in the franchise. Instead, they're getting Diablo Immortal, which is a mobile game. Literally, people were booing them on stage when they announced this, because of course they were going to boo it. They didn't want this. People don't want mobile games, from their franchises. They just don't want that. Mobile games are cheaply made and quickly made to make quick money, and that's just what they are. They're money grabs. They're supposed to just be quick cash grabs with monetization, through microtransactions and stuff. So people aren't big fans of that. And Masuda's mentality going to the future was this exactly. And I've said this before, and I think a viewer of mine said this perfectly. These games, Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, they are Masuda's magnum opus. They are his final games now when he's leaving the directing part of, mainline games within the Pokemon, the Gamefreak company, the Pokemon, company. This is his magnum opus. These games are what he always wanted Pokemon to be, I guess. This is the perfect game that he wanted to put together himself. This is what he wanted Pokemon to be, which is what we're getting with Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. Now, as you already know, I shouldn't have to point this out again, but you know that I personally am not the biggest fan of the way Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee look like. I think they can be fun games, but they're not going to be games that are going to last long. They're the sort of games which you will forget about by the time the next, generation of games comes out, and you'll just kind of forget them. You'll just kind of be, you'll play other things, and you'll forget about them over time, and they'll just kind of be in the back of your head, and you'll never really think about them. While other Pokemon games have always stuck with me, ORAS stuck with me. Even if ORAS had a lot of problems, and Masuda was a big, reason to that game having problems, because he didn't want them to do, the Battle Frontier because, too many features and, blah, 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 right? In general, like, retrospect, I remember a lot of those games fondly, but I feel like Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, for me personally, won't be games that I'll remember as much, because they're just going to be kind of a quick flash, and that's what they are. They're a quick flash, and something to keep us busy while we wait for the next games. And that's kind of sad, but that's what, for Masuda, that's what these games are. There is magnum opus, there is, final stride, right, what he always wanted to make. And I think it's good that he's moving over now to other things, because guess what? Ultra Sun and Moon were made by the younger generation. Now, Omori was the one who made Sun and Moon, right? Now, Sun and Moon did a lot of new things. They tried a bunch of new things, but also still had a lot of issues. Masuda was still involved with that, right? Sun and Moon still had Masuda involved. And Omori was the one, directing it. But that even still had a lot of problems. Guess what, though? The younger generation that made Ultra Sun and Moon, they fixed a lot of those issues. They added in a lot of things that we like and we want, right? They created more post-game, right? They made the Rainbow Rocket episode, all that stuff. The younger generation kind of understands what we want. want. We want more content. We want more features. We want more story. We want more lore. We want more of these things, right? We like these things. We want more Pokemon. We want more things to explore. It's, that's the kind of stuff that we enjoy. And that's what we want to see. With Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, it's just a remake. It's just, a remake. That's all it is. It's nothing, in my eyes that's too special. It's just, a remake. That's all it is. So, that's why, as many people aren't as excited as they would be for, a new generation. But either way, so I think this is good. I think that Masuda stepping down and giving the torch to the younger generation of developers over at Gamefreak is good. It's good. It's only going to help the franchise because you're going to have a new outlook on the franchise. New people are going to come in with love for the franchise and understanding for the franchise and for what the fans want. And they're going to be able to, direct and create way better games, hopefully. Based on what I've seen from Ultra Sun and Moon, the improvements they made to Ultra Sun and Moon were great. And that was from the younger developers, the side younger developers that haven't, had much to do, in terms of making their own full-fledged region and game and whatnot. But they managed to make so many good changes that I actually loved Ultra Sun and Moon. And I hated Sun and Moon, right? This is, this is crazy. I hated Sun and Moon's pacing and stuff, but they managed to somewhat fix a lot of those issues. Not every one of the issues, but a lot of the issues, and they added in some of the most fun features. The Ultra Wormhole space, right? I love that, being able to fly around and get shinies and whatnot. That was a lot of fun. The Rainbow Rocket episode, I love that. There's so many awesome parts about that game, so I'm just going to say that, seriously, I am glad that the younger developers are going to take over, and I think it's good that Masuda is stepping down. He's done a lot of good things for Pokemon. He is the man who, was there from day one, and was there and making Pokemon from day one, so, all I can say is, thank you, Masuda, for the work you've done. I'm sorry for any harsh words. I still appreciate the work you have done for this franchise. I feel like just, you've realized yourself that, this is the game that you wanted to create. You created the game you wanted, and honestly, I respect that. You wanted to make the game that you wanted to do, and they gave you the chance. And now, hey, people are going to enjoy this game for sure. People will enjoy it. That's undeniable. Some may, not. Some will. It depends on. But, hey, it was your magnum opus, dude, and you got to do it. You got to make it. You got to do it. Some people don't get to do that. So you got to make the game that you wanted, which is awesome for you. Now, let's go over to the actual interview. Now, this is this is the big one, okay? So I was going to, take a little bit of a sip of water here, because my throat is killing me right now. But this is the big one. So this was posted on November 1st, so this was a few days ago. Like I said, I wasn't able to record it because my throat was killing me after the live stream I did. It was a 4-hour live stream, so my voice was dead, so I couldn't do it. But here we go. So, meet the makers of Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. Gamefreak Junichi Masuda and Kensaku Nabana shared their insight into the development of the latest Pokemon adventure. The first Pokemon RPG adventure for Nintendo Switch Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee is almost here, and the excitement continues to grow. To learn more about the process that went into the adventure's creation, we had to chat with the two members of Gamefreak Inc., the developers of the games. Join us as we talk to Junichi Masuda, one of Gamefreak's founders, and the director of Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, and Kensaku Nabana, the game's lead environment designer. Both creators were kind enough to share their thoughts on the production of these upcoming titles. So, creative inspiration. Pokemon.com. Where does the original creative spark for the new Pokemon adventure usually come from? What are the first things you work on when you get that spark? I think that no matter who you are, if you're a creative person, a new project begins with the desire to do something specific or figure out the solution to a specific problem. For example, we have Nintendo Switch, which can be used in the living room as a home console. So we have the issue of getting people into the room to play the game. That's where we started with this project, through that concept. The idea of connecting the games to Pokemon Go, of creating the Pokeball Plus to be able to use it to catch Pokemon, and the two-player multiplayer where ideas we came up with to solve that problem. We had this goal in mind, and then through thought that about what kinds of creatures to implement that will meet that goal. It's the same when I create music. I always try to think about who the listener will be and what situation they will be in when listening to the music. And then I make music to fulfill that kind of image in my mind. Now, they ask here, Mr. Masuda, these are the first games you've directed for Nintendo Switch. What opportunities afforded by the new hardware were you intrigued by? At first glance, it's a complicated piece of hardware. You can't connect it to the television. You can connect it to television. You can take it out with you in handheld handheld mode. There's a touchscreen. You can take off the controllers. There are gyro motion controls. There are a lot of other elements. So in the face of those complications, the approach we took was to look at the ways we could simplify things. We took the idea of using a single controller to play the game, to make that that all feel less complicated, and also open the path to having this kind of local two-player multiplayer where you can share the controllers. Of course, from a technology perspective, there's the increased power of the hardware, which has really allowed us to have much better visuals than we've had before. The communication technology in the system also proved very valuable. For example, we used Bluetooth to allow trainers to transfer Pokemon from Pokemon Go into Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, which is something we wouldn't be able to do without that technology. Behind the scenes, it's kind of a complicated setup, but we always try to make it feel very simple for the player. A living world. Pokemon.com. The world of Pokemon feels more active than ever in these games, giving the sense of a living, breathing place. Was that a priority during development, and if so, why did you feel it was important? Because you don't battle wild Pokemon in these games, we wanted to come up with ways to encourage people to run in and go find the Pokemon they want to encounter. Having Pokemon appear in the world lets the players see the ones they want to catch and encourages them to do so, but it also makes the world feel, like you say, more alive and richer as a result. A lot of personality shines through in the way of each Pokemon moves and acts. Were there any Pokemon that proved especially challenging in this regard? And do any Pokemon stand out as your favorite in the way they animate? There are two parts to how we gave each Pokemon's movement and actions a lot of personality. There are, of course, the animations that each Pokemon has, but there are also the patterns in which they move. That was something I came up with near the end of the last year. I developed a basic set of rules for how all Pokemon should move, such as how many steps they should take before they stop and let out a cry, or what their behavior pattern is for when they move again. Once I handed this set of rules over to the programmers, they added their takes on how the individual Pokemon will move for an extra layer of personality. One of the things that was memorable to me was watching one of our movement programmers. He was referring to a video of rabbits walking around when he was creating the movements for Nidoran, which ended up influencing how that Pokemon moves. I wound up really liking Nidoran's final animation. Pokemon.com. So there's a lot of focus on the two main Pokemon in these games. They're featured on the cover, they boast unique moves, and players have ways to interact with them. Is this bond between the trainers and their first Pokemon something you've always wanted to emphasize more? He says here, it was something that we definitely aimed for in these games, to really increase that ability to form a bond with your partner Pokemon, even more than you have been able to in the past. Not only can the trainers do things to feel they're getting closer to their Pokemon, but the Pikachu and Eevee partner Pokemon in the games do things to make them feel closer to to the trainer. It's kind of a back and forth relationship. So, revisiting the past. With this return to the Kanto region and events of Pokemon Yellow Special Pikachu Edition, how do you strike the right balance between familiarity and newness? How do you decide which details to change and which to keep the same? Our approach to development of these games was to appeal to the broad audience. One of the big reasons for that is that there are a lot of younger players who maybe didn't have their own smartphones and couldn't join in on the Pokemon Go boom. Because of this, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee might be their first time playing a Pokemon video game. So I wanted to use Pokemon Yellow Special Pikachu Edition as a base to introduce the original 151 Pokemon to them, to have them experience catching and training Pokemon, which are a core gameplay elements of the Pokemon series. Now there are a lot of features that were added in the later Pokemon games, such as the eggs, abilities, held items that didn't exist at the time of Pokemon Yellow Special Edition. However, we wanted kids today to experience something similar to what kids enjoyed 20 years ago. Of course, there are aspects such as like link battling and trading, which were updated, where we updated the field to be something more appropriate to the modern tastes. What were some of the challenges in bringing these classic environments into the three-dimensional world for the first time? Which locales do you think look especially good or interesting in this new visual style? One of the most difficult aspects of updating all the environments and maps for the new hardware and graphic style was that we wanted to keep it nostalgic for fans of the original, while also making it something that looks very inviting and appealing for younger kids. It should always be very clear where you go, where you can't go, where Pokemon would appear and where they shouldn't appear, or wouldn't appear. I think there was a lot of simplicity in those older pixel graphics, which made things like that obvious to the players. The graphics helped communicate things to the players, so you'll see there are quite a few things that we've left mostly unchanged. We updated the way you can move around, but we made it very clear where you can go and where you can't go and where you might find Pokemon. In terms of locales, that I think look especially good or interesting. One thing that we did this time around was to go back and update all the towns. We redesigned them pretty much, giving all the towns their own personality. I think players will have a lot of fun discovering how locations have changed. Mr. Masuda, you previously directed another pair of games set in the Kanto region, with Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, on the Game Boy Advanced. What lessons did you learn from that experience that you were able to bring to these games? And what different goals did you have in mind for the Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu Eevee video games? The base concept behind the Fire Red and Leaf Green was very different from what we're going for with Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu Eevee. Back then, the primary focus was to create games that would connect with Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, which were the other titles available on the Game Boy Advanced. This time around, we're defining what modern living room Pokemon RPG experience might be when you play on a home console on a big screen TV. We're starting from very different places, and as a result, I think you will see the direction is quite different. At the same time, probably because of the popularity of the Pokemon series, I think most Pokemon fans prefer the less scary, kind of cuter, more inviting look that the animated series provides. So the feel of the world changed to be a little less scary, and the Pokemon started to look less monster-like and more like the impression that people get from Pokemon today. We're taking those ideas and continuing to implement them in these new games. Behind the scenes, Pokemon, it's been 5 years since you last served as director on the Pokemon X and Y, Pokemon X and Pokemon Y. Why were these the right games for you to return to that role? I was the one who worked on the base concept document for Pokemon Go, and now I want to realize the goal by creating the games that could connect with Pokemon Go and feel somewhat similar to it without feeling like they were copying it. Given my involvement in Pokemon Go's development, I thought I was probably the best person to direct these games. It was very interesting to work with the Nintendo Switch. There's a lot of technology packed into the hardware that we were trying to discover at Gamefreak. For example, developing the Pokeball Plus and working with Bluetooth. We already read this. But at the same time, it's important to have a younger generation at Gamefreak take over the development of the Pokemon as a series. I do believe this will probably be, in terms of the Pokemon main Pokemon RPGs, the last time that I work as the director. You also served as the composer. What was your approach to enhancing, remixing the soundtrack for the Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu Eevee video games? When first approaching the idea of remixing or rearranging the music that I had originally created for Pokemon Red and Pokemon Green, I knew that I would need someone who really understood how I made that music and who is also familiar with Pokemon. Also, due to this sheer number of songs, I would need someone who could handle that workload and would be able to rearrange the tracks in a classical music style without making huge sweeping changes. The person who got to handle that was Shota Kageyama. He's a musician who's worked on Pokemon games in the past at Game Freak. He's really good at making dramatic music. He's also very consistent and fast in delivering his work. I talked with him and he came up with a style of music that we felt would be most appropriate for these games. Again, with the concept of a Pokemon RPG in the modern living room, the music is always going to be on. You're probably not going to turn off the sound like you might on a handheld system, because the music will be heard throughout the room. Oh boy. So we wanted something that would feel kind and inviting, something that everyone in the household would be comfortable hearing. We've used various music styles in the past, such as heavy metal or techno, and those are obviously things that certain people really like. At the same time, however, those styles can be divisive and intimidating to others. With that in mind, we wanted the music to feel inclusive, and I think Mr. Kageyama did a great job in achieving that. One of the more interesting things that Mr. Kageyama did comes in the form of how he respected the original music while injecting his own variations on the themes. Most of the songs used the same key and tempo as the original versions, and he keeps things very similar for the first pass of the tune. After the initial loop happens, though, Mr. Kageyama's arrangements kicks in, allowing his own style to come through. I think it'll be very interesting for fans of the original soundtrack to listen to how it's changed. True. Parting words. Pokemon.com. What do you hope new Pokemon players get out of these games? How about long-time fans? It's kind of the same for both audiences, really. But this is the first time that a Pokemon RPG is going to be in the living room on a modern home console. That's really the focus of how we're approaching the development. I think seeing the Pokemon in HD visuals on a big screen TV is going to be a lot of fun for traditional Pokemon fans as well as new players. The other big thing is in these games is obviously pretending to throw a Pokeball to catch a Pokemon using either the Pokeball Plus or a Joy-Con. It's similar to the Pokemon Go style of catching, but we've evolved it to be an even more immersive experience. And it lets you feel like you're a trainer really catching Pokemon in the games. I think that's going to be a lot of fun for all players. My hope is that everyone is going to enjoy it, not just by themselves, but also with their friends or family by joining in and having fun with the 2-player gameplay. Okay, Nabana says, as a fan of the original Pokemon RPGs, I want first-time players to get to know the setting in the world of the Pokemon and what it's like to be a Pokemon trainer. I wanted to get out and catch, train, and battle Pokemon to enjoy all the different elements of the Pokemon RPGs. For long-time fans like myself, there's obviously the goal of completing the Pokédex. This time, the way you catch the original 151 Pokemon is very different from how it was in the past. So I think it'll be quite a challenge. The experience also feels very fresh because the technique of catching Pokemon is different in these games. Other than that, we have some interesting content for long-time fans who are more interested in battling. After finishing the main story, there are the Master Trainers that exist throughout the Kanto region. There's one for each of the different species of Pokemon. That's call themselves. The race of Pokemon is extremely strong, and you can go and challenge them. For example, if you find a Charmander master, you can challenge that master trainer with a Charmander of your own. To defeat that Charmander master, you need to deep knowledge of how the Pokemon battle system works, and you need to have a strong Pokemon. If you do manage to defeat them, you claim the title of Charmander master for yourself. You can then travel throughout the Kanto region to collect all these different master trainer titles. We would like to thank Mr. Masuda and Mr. Nabana for taking the time to chat with us about these latest games. If you want to learn more about these games, etc. There we go, guys. That was it. 25 minutes long. Wow, that was a long one. So, as I mentioned earlier, guys, if these are actually Masuda's last games, then hey, Masuda, thank you for the work you've done in the past, man. I played Fire Red Leaf Green so many times. I played through Fire Red Leaf Green so many times. And those were good games, in my opinion. And you worked on those, so mad lad. Thank you. You were also involved in all of Pokemon throughout its history, so thank you for that. Thank you for, working on that. Of course, you have a different, mindset for Pokemon, and I guess, that mindset probably won't go along, won't go throughout the rest of the company and won't be a thing that will keep being there, which is the mindset of making Pokemon into a more mobile franchise in terms of, like, mobile games and the style of mobile games, which I think is not the right direction to go in, but hey, you've done your best, man. You made some great games. And, hey, if Let's Go Eevee is fun, that's all that matters. If people enjoy it, it's all that matters. As long as, we get a good game next year with a bunch of features and a bunch of new stuff, a bunch of Pokemon and awesome things, then I'm happy. So, yeah, guys, that's going to be the end of the video. What do you guys think about this? What do you think about Masuda leaving? What are your thoughts about it? What do you think about it? What are your opinions, etc.? Let me know in the comment section down below. And yeah, what do you guys think about it? What are your opinions? I would love to know. But yeah, guys, that's going to be the end of the video. I hope to see you all the next time. Have a great day, and bye-bye, ladies and gentlemen.